welcome to the Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo. I'm going to read you a Bible story based on the book of Genesis 2. It's called God Made Me. Let's take a look in the bag to find out what secret item will appear in our story today. Right, give me a drum roll. Oh, look, it's an actual drum. Brilliant. Okay, God had been busy. Not the kind of busy that you or I know, like brush your teeth, wash your face, get your shoes on, lean to the left or wiggle to the right. No, God was God busy. He had been sitting in complete darkness, wondering what to do with his time, when he suddenly came up with one of his best ideas yet. He was going to make the world. It was going to be so awesome. No time like the present, God thought. And he called for there to be light. He then moved on to make the sea, the big wild sea. And next he made the land and then the sky. And then he filled the sky with birds and the sea with fish and land with creatures of all shapes and sizes. Then God stopped. He looked at the awesome world that lay before him, like a colourful painting. And now came the most exciting part yet. Time to make humans. God had a book and he had been writing lists of names in it. He knew each and every person that he would ever make. He would have a plan for them that would make them strong and well, from the first to the last, from the smallest to the biggest. He would make people that could live all over the world. No two of them would be exactly the same. Each would be unique. They would have eyes that could see the beautiful world and ears that could hear the sounds of the animals and the wind in the trees. They would have noses that could smell flowers and honey and lemons. They would have tummies that could be filled with food and arms to move and wave and pick things up, legs to run and bounce and spin and dance. Each would have hair of different colours, curly or straight, long or short, black or brown, orange or white. God thought, my people can have minds that can think, create, build and grow, and hearts that would beat with love and hope and joy and gladness, and I will love them. Yes, I will love them with my whole heart. They will be mine and I will be theirs. And then God said, with a drum roll I might add, let there be man. Let there be woman. And there was amazing, spectacular, glorious you, made and created from the best idea God had ever had. Isn't it the most wonderful thing that you are created by the all-powerful God? Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, God knows and loves you so much. Welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo and I'm going to tell you a Bible story based on the book of Luke, chapter 15. Lots of people know it as the prodigal son, but I like to call it the loving dad. Why don't we take a look in the bag to see what secret clue might appear in our story today? Ooh, hang on. What's this? Oh, a little pile of clothes. It's very nice. Look, a purple cloak, a hat. Okay, well, we'll see. Should we see where it appears today? Let's begin. Once there was a kind man. He was very rich and lived in an enormous house on a hill with his 2 sons. He loved his sons very, very much. He showered them with presents even when it wasn't their birthday. He took them on trips to the seaside. He even let them drive his fancy cars. They were very, very happy together until one day when the youngest son, we'll call him Jack, decided he wanted to move out. "Dad," said Jack, "I'm so bored. I want to go travelling and see the world. It'll be expensive though. Can you give me half of all your money? Pretty please." Jack's dad felt really sad. He loved his son. They'd always had adventures together, and there could have been so many more to come. But he granted Jack his wish. Soon Jack's bag was packed and he was off. Jack had a lot of fun, and I mean a lot. He stayed in the swankiest hotels. He wore the coolest clothes. He went to the poshest restaurants in town. Whatever his heart desires, he had. And whatever he wanted to do, he did. Until one day, Jack ran out of money. Uh-oh, no more fancy hotels, no more cool clothes, no more posh restaurants. Jack had absolutely nothing. Jack was desperate. He took the only job he could find, feeding pigs. It was disgusting, and it didn't pay much money. Some days, Jack was so hungry that he dreamt about eating the pig food. Then, one day, while Jack was up to his ankles in pig muck, he thought, "My dad's workers have plenty to eat, yet here I am, starving. I know I've messed up with Dad. I can't be his son, but maybe if I go and see him and tell him I'm sorry, he'll let me at least work for him." And so, once again, Jack packed his bag and left. That evening, Jack's dad stood by the window in his house on the hill. He looked at the picture on the windowsill, one of Jack, and he smiled sadly. Oh, he loved his son and he missed him terribly. He looked out of the window and over the valley. He did this every day, 10 times a day, and most times he just saw miles of empty road. But not tonight. Somebody was walking slowly up the hill. Could it be? Yes, it's Jack! Jack's dad ran out of the house and he didn't stop running until he saw his son, and he threw his arms around him and gave him the most enormous hug. "Dad," said Jack, looking down at his shoes, "I'm so sorry. I know you won't want me back, but..." Jack's dad smiled with tears in his eyes. "Nonsense," he said, holding him even tighter. "Quick, let's get you into some fine clothes. Let's have a huge party. It's time to celebrate because my son, my precious, precious child is home at last." I love that story. Isn't it wonderful to see Jack's dad loved him so much? It didn't matter what he had done. He was forgiven. And that's just like us when we make silly choices. God, our Heavenly Father, loves us so much that He always forgives us. Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, there is nothing we can ever do to stop God from loving us. Welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo, and I'm going to tell you a Bible story that comes from the book of Ruth 1. It's called The Long Road to Judah. This story is all about a woman called Naomi who is feeling rather glum. Naomi had left her homeland to go and find food to eat in a place called Moab. Sadly, her family passed away and she was left with her sons' wives, Orpah and Ruth. There was also a famine in her land, which meant there was no food. Feeling very sad, Naomi decided to say goodbye to Ruth and Orpah and travel back home to Judah. But God had a special friend ready for her so she would never have to be alone. Shall I take a look in my bag and see what clue we've got for the story today? Oh, look, an old map. Let's start the story and see if you can see why this old map is so important. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Footsteps on the road, the dry and dusty road. Naomi is walking on the long road to Judah. Naomi sits down. She rests upon a rock by the dry and dusty road. She stops to catch her breath and looks upon her map. She notes which way to go on the long road to Judah. Naomi looks back along the road, the dry and dusty road. Behind her is a town, the town she left behind. She waves goodbye to Moab on the long road to Judah. She thinks about the good times, her happy home in Moab with her loving husband and the family they cared for, the happiness she felt when one son married Orpah and the other married Ruth. She thinks about them all on the long road to Judah. She thinks about the sad times, the heartache that she felt as one by one they died. First her loving husband, then her darling sons, and with sadness in her heart, Naomi sheds a tear. She's ready to go home on the long road to Judah. Naomi looks ahead, up along the road, the dry and dusty road. Before her is a town, the town where she is headed. Bethlehem's before her on the long road to Judah. She thinks about the future and what might lie in store when she reaches Bethlehem and starts her life anew. She wonders where she'll live. She wonders what she'll do. There's so much she doesn't know on the long road to Judah. But Naomi's not alone as she walks along the road, the dry and dusty road. Who is that beside her? Beside her is a friend, a good and loyal friend. Ruth is walking with her on the long road to Judah. For Ruth has made a promise to go where she will go, to stay where she will stay, to always walk beside her, to help her if she falls. And Naomi isn't scared because her friend is near. Her faithful friend is with her on the long road to Judah. Do you have a friend who helps you and who you have fun with? Did you know that God is your friend? What's more, he will always be with you and bring friends to help you, just like Ruth helped Naomi. Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, God has a plan mapped out especially for you. Hello, welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo and I'm going to read a Bible story from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 3. It's called God's Friend Samuel. Shall we take a look in my bag to see what clues there are for the story today? Ooh, what is it going to be? Oh, look, it's a cute teddy bear. Hello, you can sit just here. Right, let's get started and see what a teddy bear's doing in our story today. Once, there was a boy named Samuel. He lived in God's temple with an old priest called Eli who helped him to serve God each day. Samuel used to sleep in God's special house. One night, when Samuel was lying down on the floor, he suddenly heard a voice calling, "Samuel! Samuel!" Samuel got up and he went to find the priest Eli, who was also asleep. And Samuel said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli said, "I didn't call you, go back to bed." And so Samuel went back and lay down on the floor. But for a second time, Samuel heard a voice calling, "Samuel! Samuel!" And again, Samuel got up and went to find the priest, Eli, and said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli said, "I didn't call you, go back to bed." And so Samuel went back and lay down on the floor. And then a third time, Samuel heard a voice calling, "Samuel! Samuel!" And Samuel got up for a third time and went to find the priest Eli. And Samuel said, "Here I am, you called me." But this time, old Eli realized who was calling to Samuel. It was God. "Next time you hear the voice," Eli said, "you must say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went back and lay down on the floor. And when God called again, "Samuel, Samuel," and Samuel got up and he said, "Here I am, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." And God told Samuel about the many amazing things he was going to do. Isn't it amazing to think that no one is too little to know God? Samuel was very young, but God had a special plan for him, and he wanted Samuel's help with it. Even while he was a boy, Samuel learnt how to listen to God, to follow him, and to be God's friend. Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, God wants to be your friend, no matter how big or how little you are. Hello, welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo and I'm going to read a Bible story from the book of Judges, chapter 6 to 7. It's about a boy called Gideon who finds out that he is a real hero. Shall we take a look in my bag to find out the mystery clue for our story today? Oh, interesting, a trumpet. Let's start the story and see why this has come out of the bag. "Ha! Take that, you nasty Midianite!" Gideon punched the bundle of wheat in front of him, imagining it was a Midianite bottom. It made the hard work of harvesting a little less boring and made Gideon feel 1,000,000 times better. Everyone in Israel hated the Midianites. They were a horrible lot. They invaded the Israelites' land and raided their homes. They nicked their animals and trampled their crops. They trashed everything the Israelites had until there was nothing left. That was why Gideon had started hiding. That morning, he was threshing the wheat in the winepress, a tiny pit in the ground where they used to crush the grapes. No one would notice him there. The wheat would be safe from the Midianites, and so would he. Gideon took another swipe at the wheat. Take that, you nasty Midianite, and tumbled into the winepress. Ouch! He yelled. Oops, too loud. Gideon popped his head up above the pit, hoping no one had heard. It was one thing to fight an imaginary Midianite, but he didn't want to meet one in real life. That would be far too scary. Gideon turned around and to his huge surprise, an angel of the Lord was standing right in front of him. Greetings, mighty warrior, he said. His heart was beating so fast. Mighty warrior? Gideon spun around, but he was the only one there. Go, save Israel from the Midianites, the angel continued. God is sending you. Me? Are you kidding? He cried. I'm nothing. I'm less than nothing. I'm the weediest weakling you've ever seen. God is with you, said the angel, smiling. You'll defeat the Midianites. You'll see. Gideon wasn't sure. He'd never seen himself as a warrior. He'd never seen himself as anything. But if God had called him, who was he to say no? Gideon set out with God's help. A whole lot of people said that they would join his army. Soon he was sitting above the hills, above a Midianite camp, waiting to attack. He still felt nervous, but it helped to know that he had 30,000 men beside him. God, however, had other plans. You've got far too many men, said God. Tell anyone who's feeling scared to go home. Gideon knew he needed to trust God. It'll be okay, he said to himself, as he watched more than half his army disappear. And now there were 10,000 men left. But God wasn't finished. Nope. Still too many men, he said. I'll pick which ones I want. And he whispered the plan to Gideon. Following God's directions, he offered his men the chance to drink from a stream. Any of the men who didn't lap the water like dogs were also sent home. Gideon breathed deeply. Now he had only 300 men. But God knew what he was doing. All he had to do was stick to the plan. That night, Gideon gave each man a trumpet. Quietly, they crept up to the edge of the enemy camp. Now! Shouted Gideon, and the Israelites blasted their trumpets. And then they yelled at the top of their lungs, for God and for Gideon! What a racket! The Midianites jumped out of bed, terrified, and then they fled the camp, crying as they went, woohoo, woohoo, woohoo! The Israelites cheered, and they partied all night long. Gideon was amazed. He bowed down and worshipped God. God really could use anyone, even an ordinary guy like him, to do extraordinary things. Isn't it brilliant that even though Gideon was so young and small, God knew he could be a hero? Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, with your God beside you, you can be a hero too. Hello, welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo, and I've just been thinking about how amazing it is that God cares about each and every one of us. Hey, that reminds me of a story Jesus once told in the Bible in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, about a shepherd who really loves his sheep. Let's take a look in the bag to see what mystery item will appear in the story today. Ooh, a party trumpet. Shall we begin? There was once a shepherd who had 100 sheep, and he loved every one of them, just like God loves every one of you. He took care of them all day and night and knew that the safest place for them was close to him, where he could watch over them and protect them and give them what they needed. Every night when the sun went down, the shepherd counted his sheep to make sure they were all there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He would start counting. 45, 46, 47, still going. 72, 73, 74. Gosh, he had a lot of sheep to count. Well, one night he was counting his sheep as usual, and he got all the way up to 99. But then he stopped. Something was wrong. One of his sheep was missing. It was Molly. Where had she gone? The shepherd knew that a sheep all by herself out in the night wasn't safe at all. He had to rescue his precious little sheep and bring her back to a safe place. Leaving the other sheep behind, the worried shepherd raced off to find the one that had wandered away. He walked and walked, searching all over the hills in the darkness. He wasn't going to give up until he found his precious sheep. He loved her after all. Then, all of a sudden, he spotted her, huddled up, all alone. The shepherd walked through the mud and then over the fence, then through the stream, climbed over the log and then pushed his hand into the thorny bush and scooped his sheep up into his arms and carried her carefully all the way back home. He was full of joy. His little lost sheep was safely back where she belonged, close to the one who loved her. In fact, this shepherd was so happy that he called everyone he knew and he shouted, "Let's have a party! I found my lost sheep!" And what a party they had. Everyone celebrated because what had once been lost was now found. And guess what? Just like the shepherd celebrated when he found his sheep, all of heaven has had a praise party when we choose to love God and live our lives with him. Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, just like the shepherd in this story loves his sheep, God loves you with a deep love that will never, ever change. Hello, welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo and I'm going to read a Bible story from the book of Joshua 1, 3 and 4 and it's called Joshua and the Deep Wide River. What secrets will I find in my bag today that might give us a clue about the story? Ooh, oh, a snorkel and mask. Interesting. God had a particular soft spot for the Israelites. So much so that he called them his special people. The Israelites had been having a miserable time living in Egypt, where they had been treated very badly by the Egyptians, made to work very hard and not given enough food to fill their very hungry tummies. But God had a spectacular plan for his people. He brought them a leader called Moses. Moses was a fabulous leader. He managed to get all the Israelites out of Egypt, even though they were being chased by horses and angry men shouting, "Come back here, you good-for-nothings!" But they didn't. They escaped through the Red Sea, all the way to the other side. For a long time, Moses led God's people through the desert, but God was very unhappy with all this moaning and groaning people. God decided to keep them in the desert until the grumbling had stopped. Guess how long that lasted for? 40 years! But God had promised his people that they would have a special land to live in. So after years and years and years of walking around the desert, longing to reach the promised land, finally the day had come. God called a man named Joshua. "Get ready," God said. "The time has come for you to cross over the river Jordan and into your new home." Joshua felt scared. The river was deep and wide. How on earth would they cross? But God said to Joshua, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And so Joshua told God's people to get ready. A few days later, God's people walked down to the edge of the river Jordan, and as they looked out on the rushing water, they felt scared. The river was deep and wide. People were chattering about how on earth they would cross. "Shall I make a canoe? I have my snorkel ready."
"I am going to try and surf across,"
Joshua said to the people. "Everybody, all you need to do is trust God. He is with us." God's priests carried a precious box called the Ark of the Covenant in front of the people, right to the edge of the river. Then, as soon as the priests put their feet into the river Jordan, it stopped flowing. The water piled up on either side of the people in a watery mountain, leaving a pathway of dry ground right in front of them. One by one, the people of God crossed over the riverbed and landed safely on the other side. God said to Joshua, "Joshua, pick 12 people. Tell them to pick up one big stone each from the riverbed." The people collected 12 stones and made a big mound of rocks right where the priests had been standing when the water stopped flowing. The people had finally made it to the promised land, and for many years, whenever God's people saw that tower, they would always remember that God was with them. Isn't that an awesome story? Thank you for watching Little Worship Company Bible Time. See you again next time. And remember, even when you feel completely stuck, God can do something amazing to help you, even when it seems impossible. Hello, welcome to Little Worship Company Bible Time. My name's Jo, and I'm going to read a story from the Bible from 1 Samuel 17, and it's called David versus the Giant. Shall I reach down in my bag to see what clues we've got for our story today? Oh, look, 5 pebbles. I'm going to put them down here. Should we see why these are so important for our story? Ha 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 ha! Goliath, the giant's laugh, echoed around the Judean hills. It was a big, booming, angry laugh, a bit like the giant himself. The only thing louder was the sound of the Israelites' knees knocking together as they watched, terrified from the opposite hill. "Come on then, pipsqueaks!" the giant shouted. "Who's gonna fight me today, huh? Anyone? Or are you too scared?" Goliath did this every day. He was the Philistine army's champion fighter, their very own stone-smashing, man-bashing machine. He was dressed head to toe in metal armour and carried the most humongous sword you've ever seen. "It's easy," he bellowed. "Send someone here to fight me. If you win, we'll surrender. But if I win," Goliath grinned, "you Israelites will be our slaves forever." David was too young to fight, so he had been staying at home helping to watch his father's sheep. When David had been told to deliver food to his big brothers and leave the flocks behind, he saw Goliath bellowing and boasting. He wasn't happy with what he was hearing. "He can't talk to us like that," he said. "Doesn't he know that we're God's special people?" The Israelites shook their heads. "King Saul says he'll shower gold on the person who can beat Goliath, but just look at him." David went to see King Saul in the royal tent. "Your Majesty, let me fight this giant," he asked. Now it was Saul's turn to laugh. "You?" he said. "You're only a boy." "I might be small," said David, "but I'll fight any wild animal that comes after my father's sheep. God keeps me safe from lions and bears, and God will keep me safe from him." A little stream ran past the camp. David picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little stones from the water and ran off to face Goliath. When Goliath saw David, he laughed even louder than before. "Is this the best you can do?" he guffawed. "Come on then, boy, I'll make mincemeat out of you." But David wasn't scared. "You might have a sword and a spear, but I have God on my side, and today everyone will see just how big and mighty he is." David put a stone into his sling. He wrapped it inside, and then he swung it round and round, and then the stone whizzed through the air, boom, and landed smack on the giant's forehead. Goliath swayed to the right, and then he swayed to the left, and then bam, he crashed onto the ground. Woohoo! The Israelites' cheers echoed around the Judean hills. David smiled. There might be giants in this world, but God was mightier than all of them. I hope you've enjoyed this Little Worship Company Bible Time story about David and Goliath. See you again next time. And remember, God can make even the teeny tiny of us brave and strong. To be the first to watch Little Worship Company Bible Time stories, you can subscribe here, or you can click here or here to watch more fun and inspiring videos.